Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first FPL Hints live on Twitter Spaces this season. How's it going, all? So, there was a bit of a glitch on my part, unfortunately. I was hoping to become the first FPL account to simultaneously stream on YouTube and do a Twitter Space, but my laptop decided to do a hard reboot at the worst possible moment. So, we will be streaming and spacing at the same time as well. But I guess you're not here to just hear me speak. You want to speak to the legend that is Dan Bennett. So Dan Bennett, as if in case you don't know, has 10 top 10k finishes in FPL, of which of the last 8 seasons he's finished 6 times in the top 10k and 3 times over the past 3 seasons. Now I'm just going to try and add him as a speaker, so apologies. Just want to make sure that all the gremlins have been ironed out, and then we'll get started. Dan, are you there, mate?
Can you hear me okay?
I can. Thank you so much for joining me today, mate.
Thanks for that introduction.
You're welcome. I'm just so gutted that the YouTube element hasn't worked yet, because last week Spaces just died on me, but the YouTube element worked, and this week it's the other way around because of my laptop.
all FPL content have technical issues. In good company.
Absolutely. So, Dan, what we'll do is I'm going to flip the course of this conversation. I was actually going to talk more about yourself, your history, your journey, and all of that side of things first. But let's talk about game week 3 first, how you did, your learnings from game week 3, and then looking at game week 4. And then we'll talk about the Elite 1000 side of things, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, game week 3 for me was actually a good week. I know most people didn't have a particularly good week with Big at the back not returning, no clean sheets for Liverpool, City and Chelsea. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to have Perisic. I started with him in game week 1 and benched him for the first 2. So I was thankfully returned well. And then I also started Andreas Pereira for 8 points. I know a lot of people benched him. So yeah, I got quite lucky in game week 3. But I think there was a good lesson from game week 3. You see a lot of managers perhaps panicking that they didn't have a good week. But as we'll come on to later, the key for me is patience. So yeah, I'm giving my Big at the back at least game week 4. Yeah, I guess this is the last week where we'll probably see little rotation. Then the midweek games start. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. How did you get on in game week 3?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a below average game week purely because I didn't have any defensive Arsenal coverage and I didn't have Perisic as well. I think after what we saw in the first 2 game weeks, I wasn't sure if he was going to start. And I had a tip off actually before game week 1 that he wouldn't start. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to take that risk. So I think I ended up with 45 points, so a few points below the average. And from my side, my rank was at 1 million until Mohamed Salah got that goal, consolation goal on Monday night. And I went from my starting rank was like 200k, dropped to 1 million. Then he scored that goal and I went to 500k. But again, at this stage of the season, I guess it's all fairly close. And like yourself, Dan, I also started Andreas Pereira. Just had a good feeling about him in that match. I noticed that a lot of people actually benched him and then they suffered ultimately as well. And I'll probably bench him this week actually. But I've got a question, and you probably have seen it that I've been psychoanalyzing your team with the video. In fact, I'll post I'll post my reaction to your team in this space here. But my question is this: as you know, I'm one who looks at the Elite 1000 managers very closely, and I've noticed across across the board, 5-3-2 has been the go-to formation. I personally feel like looking back over the years that it's not a sustainable formation. My question to you is that was it just sustainable? And we've seen with Robertson, it's been a bit problematic for some. Do you feel that 5-3-2, because of the way that the wing backs are leveraged now, in the Premier League that it can be a viable formation in the short term, at least?
I think it can. I think it's a big conversation, isn't it? When you look at like the likes of Perisic for 5.5, James at 6, and we compare them to midfielders at the similar price. And I think over a long term, the defenders such as Perisic, James, Robertson, I think they'll probably return better than most of the equivalent price midfielders. It's just the mid-price midfielders, they'll have a lot more ups and downs. It's difficult to identify which ones are going to be scoring the points week in, week out. They're not as consistent. So as we've seen the likes of, well, Martinelli was probably a bit an exception because he was probably underpriced. But again, we were unsure of his minutes to start the season, perhaps. Who's recently? Rodrigo. None of us really called him from the start. So yeah, I do think it might be sustainable this season, but we're always looking to tinker as engaged FPL managers. And yeah, myself, I've got Robertson, and if he doesn't return against Bournemouth this weekend, I'll almost certainly ship him out just to free up funds and jump on an exciting mid-price bandwagon. So yeah, it's tricky. I mean, even for myself, who I'm probably one of the most patient managers around. Boring, most people would say, but patient. So yeah, I'm not sure. We'll come back to it, I'm sure, but I think the big at the back, we might drop down to 4.
Yeah. And like from my perspective, I just felt at the start of during pre-season, I felt 4-4-2 was the most like balanced formation from my perspective. And I've looked at this 5 at the back concept many times over the past 10 years, right? And I've not seen anyone consistently and on a sustainable basis win their mini leagues or even FPL for that matter with a 5-3-2 or a 5-2-3 formation. But it seems to be very popular when you've got like spicy picks like we've mentioned: Robertson, Trent, James, Cancelo. You've got Perisic as well. I totally get why people have bought into it, but for me it was a question of its longevity. And often you see the hype. In fact, almost every season, where the 5 at the back is talked up in a very good way. And I'm not one for like looking at XGC, for instance, but like clearly, like the way Liverpool have played at the start of this season, not winning any of their games and not even keeping a clean sheet is quite anomalous. So anyone who had the Robbo and Trent double up, I totally get it. They've been very hard done by. And it's not to say that both Trent and Robbo are rubbish picks. Of course they're not. They're amazing players. They've just been very unfortunate. But then there's only so much that you can, plod along with both Robbo and Trent not getting returns, I guess. And I've shared it. Let me see. Yeah, it's up there in the space for anyone that's interested. I did like a reaction to Dan's team, and like you've said, Dan, that Robbo's a potential weak link in the team. And I also looked at Neto as well. That with the money that you had in the bank, one of the names that came as a like-for-like replacement was Aronson. What's your take on Aronson? I know Leeds have got Harrison, Aronson, Rodrigo as well. Of the 3, is there one that stands out the most? From your perspective?
Yeah, well, a spoiler. I did a transfer. Was it not last night? The night before, because Neto was dropping. I wouldn't have mind holding Neto for the next 3, but it was that the links with Arsenal. We've seen like Fofana, the links with Chelsea. In fact, I think just before the space went live, I think I saw that a fee had been agreed with Chelsea for Fofana. But yeah, I just wondered whether Neto might not play or might be on the bench this weekend with the rumours. So I took the opportunity to take him out, and I actually went with Aronson. But the main factor was it's the only one I could afford in a one move swap, because I've got 2 free transfers, and I wanted to save one of the free transfers to have 2 free transfers going into the midweek games, because there might be, as you say, there might be some rotation coming, so 2 free transfers might be useful. So yeah, I've gone with Aronson. His stats are not as good so far as Rodrigo and Harrison. I like Harrison. I liked him. I think it was not last season, the season before. He got something like 8 goals, 10 assists, 160 points. So yeah, I know he's a good asset, and obviously Rodrigo's the big bandwagon, risen in price by 0.4. But yeah, in one move, Aronson's the only one that I could get to, and I was speaking to good friends Dan at the FPL Way and Ray, who's listening. Oh, he just give us a wave. I talked to him about the move before doing it, and yeah, he put me at ease with Aronson. I don't get to watch many games, so Ray said he's been looking good on the eye test. So yeah, if Aronson's a flop, I'm coming for Ray.
I mean, for what it's worth, and I want to kind of boast, because in my reaction video that literally no one's watched, unfortunately, I literally said that you're gonna Neto's a weak link, and if the only person you could get is Aronson, and joking aside, like I feel that Marsh has a soft spot for Aronson. I don't know why. It just kind of feels like that he's someone that I feel that will definitely flourish and do well in this Leeds United team. I look at Harrison as well. That Harrison, when he first came to Leeds, he did amazingly well. In fact, his first season in the Premier League, he scored like 130 points, something ridiculous, and people didn't even buy him that season. They were too busy buying Rafinha or Bamford, but Harrison completely went under the radar. And Rodrigo, I'm just getting Michu vibes off him, Rafinha vibes, you could say as well. The only problem I had with Rodrigo, and I looked at how he was playing pre-season, and I looked at his positioning. I was like, well, this guy is playing very advanced, and he's listed as a midfielder. But the biggest question mark I had in pre-season was that his minutes were heavily managed. Obviously, there was Rafinha in the team, and there were other people that he was competing with. But I feel that, like, obviously Bamford's not around at the moment, so Rodrigo's effectively a de facto striker for the most part now. So, like, he looks like a really exciting pick. And if anyone can afford Rodrigo right now, obviously Brighton's going to be a very difficult game this weekend. The question is, will his minutes be managed? I'm not a Leeds United expert, but that's something that I'd like to see. And I just feel that in terms of value, because for me, it's all about the value add as well. I think Rodrigo, of course, offers value. So does Harrison. So does Aronson. I think it's literally a three-way pick at the moment. But obviously, Rodrigo edges it because of the attacking returns he's got at this moment in time. The other point I wanted to say, actually, just from my perspective, I don't really reveal my team before the deadline anymore. But I was forced into making 2 transfers, and I couldn't, from my side, I wanted to get Rodrigo, but it means selling Trippier. Didn't want to do that. And the only boring move and really strange move I could have done, the safest move, was sell Nico Williams, and I could afford Davinson Sanchez in my team. But then I thought that's a bit of a short-term one, and it's just not. I just get them Spurs cover. So I have used 2 free transfers. I won't reveal who I've brought in, but yeah, I wasn't happy. I didn't get Gross. I didn't get Aronson. I didn't get Rodrigo. My team structure wouldn't allow it.
You've got us on the edge of our seats here.
I can't. I know. Do you know what? One of the players you've already got in your team, and I didn't copy you, but it's just to unlock funds. And the other player is a defensive asset as well. So I think that's all I'm going to say at the moment.
I'll look forward to guessing who that is.
Thanks. So I'm just going to request 2 things. So the update is my YouTube stream. It's going to be quite delayed, so apologies for anyone who's going to join by YouTube. But one favor I have got from all of you, well, 2 favors actually. My YouTube channel is alive and kicking, as per that video I've shared in the space. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch the videos, number 1. And number 2, I would really appreciate it if you could just simply retweet or share this space on your timelines right now. Just spread the word, and then we'll get cracking with Dan and his Elite 1000 journey. So if you could subscribe, hit the like button, and also share this space, that would be great. And I will not sleep. I will not do anything. In fact, Dan might even go at some point as well. But I will make sure that I am the first FPL account that simultaneously does a space and does a YouTube stream. It will happen today. By hook or by crook, I'll make it happen. So, so yeah, apologies. But just a quick one, Dan, just before we move on. do you feel that like we're all overlooking rotation? And obviously, people are worried about game week 5, but is there a worry that we'll have a bit of rotation in game week 4 as well, potentially, because of the short turnaround time between 5 and 6?
Yeah, yeah, good point. Yeah, I guess managers can't just we can't expect them all to play the full strength in 4 and 5, perhaps. There'll be some names that we can be confident of. I'm sure Salah's going to play all the games. Jesus, you'd expect, I assume. But yeah, I'm still worried about Robertson. I keep seeing people talking about Simicast possibly starting, but I just think I'm sure. I hope Robertson will play. But yeah, you've got a good point. But so I think it is good to have at least a good 12th man. I think Andreas will be my 12th man this week. I think he's great. It's 4.5, but I think we've got to start thinking of him as a 5.56 million midfielder. Some of the positions that he's getting into and taking set pieces, etc. So yeah, we could see some this weekend, but I wouldn't let it dictate transfers too much right now. Let's get through game week 4, and then maybe we reassess based on minutes in game week 4, going into game week 5. There's obviously talk about the 5 subs rule. Will that mean we use our bench less as more players are likely to get at least some minutes, so we'll get some cameo performances, which will be annoying getting 1-pointers. But if it's Haaland for 20 minutes in game week 5 at the end of the match, might not be a bad thing. Yeah, it's certainly tricky, and we're going to have to be quite flexible this season. I do wonder if it's worth going with more talisman, Tony, Mitrovic. They're going to play 90 minutes, aren't they?
Yeah. Dan, I just want to share an exclusive actually, and this is someone who's in the chat right now has shared with me. I don't want to disclose their name necessarily, but this person was very spot on with my FPL Eve space with regards to Chilwell, Chelsea team news, Arsenal team news, and Spurs team news. And I want to say this very carefully, okay? That I've got this in the know person who believes that Perisic will be benched in game week 4 against Nottingham Forest. Now, I'm not saying go and sell him. Absolutely not. And the person who's given me this news so far has been very credible with all the information that I have. All I will say is if anyone has Perisic in their team, make sure you've got a good sub 1. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that he's not going to start. I'm not saying, oh, sorry. There's a very good chance he may not start, but that's not to say that he'll come on for a cameo appearance. Just make sure you've got a good sub 1. That's the news I've got. The person hasn't been wrong so far. I don't want to reveal their name, but please just, in fact, I've probably revealed them previously, but just that's something that is worth keeping an eye on if you have Perisic. Yes, start him if you have him, but have a good sub 1. I just want to mention that to anyone who's listening in right now.
That's big news. That do we know if there's a guy on Twitter who predicts the Spurs lineups? I'm not sure if he's put his predicted lineup out yet. I'll seek him out while we're on the space.
That Jump the Wave. Let me just check for you right now, actually. So Emma, she does like Jump the Wave. In fact, let me just see if there was anything on what the predictions say on that front. Really quickly, here we go. Man City, Man United, Spurs. So according to Jump the Wave, according to this, Perisic, where are you, Perisic? 92% chance that he will start, according to Jump the Wave. So again, that's one piece of news there. They're saying he will start, but the news that I've got is that he may not start. And again, I don't want to scare people from buying him. If you're thinking of buying him, don't stop buying him because of what I've said. But this news is very specific to anyone that has him. Yes, start him, but make sure you've got a good sub 1. And I wouldn't want to share misinformation at all, but this person has been right with every piece of news that they've given me, and I'm just sharing. If someone shared this with me, if I had Perisic, I would like to know this information as well. But it's something that I'll just say. It's very there are caveats involved with this, but it's important that I share this, that there might be a chance Perisic doesn't start with the information that I've seen. And maybe that's as a result of these short turnaround times between game week 4, 5, and 6. But make of that what you will. So
That's very
don't
interesting.
say,
Yeah.
yeah, and just saying, don't, for anyone listening, don't say Ash said sell Perisic. Oh dear,
The,
oh
the
dear.
the person I was thinking of was Paul O'Keefe. I've just had a look, and he said Perisic is fit and available for selection, but he hasn't put out a predicted lineup yet, from what I can see.
Oh,
So
when does Paul O'Keefe normally put out a predicted lineup? Is it night before or on the day?
I think I read somewhere he might put it out tonight because they don't play until Sunday, do they? So maybe it could come
Yeah.
tomorrow, which would be a pain. But we'll keep an eye on that.
Absolutely. And I've just got a quick update, Dan, about my laptop gremlin. So the the hard reboot has finally happened now. Again, we'll get started on the Elite 1000 chat anyway, but I'll ask you to join the stream once it's up and running, if that's okay.
Yes, sure. Ready to do that. Yeah.
Perfect. Now the question is, where on earth has my Chrome vanished to? There we go. I've got it, found it. So look, let's get started because I think people don't want to hear me waffle on. Let me just set the scene for everyone, first of all, that there are multiple halls of fames within the FPL community. You've got Premier Fantasy Tools having one, Ragabolly's livefpl.net. You've got the Scout Hall of Fame, and you've got many others that I can't really name right now. But like Dan is ranked 12th in the Elite 1000 that Ragabolly has for livefpl.net, and that's the one that I follow the most. Also because I happen to be ranked in the top 500 there as well, conveniently. But no, it's a remarkable feat. It's like the only people that are above you, Dan, are like some Scandinavians and Fabio Borges, basically. So, like, I guess the first question I want to ask you is like with the Hall of Fame side of things, this Elite 1000 stuff. How much like does that mean to you? Is it something that is just like it's like just a tick in the box, or does it mean, what does it mean to you essentially? First of all, to be ranked this high, and then yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, and it probably does impact the way I play. To be honest, years ago when like the Fantasy Football Scout have got their Hall of Fame, and I think back in the day when that was pretty much the only one, I always used to I used to aim to get higher and higher in there, and then more and more ratings and rankings came along. But yeah, it's nice. But it is a direct result of the way I play over, and I've just kept the same method for like 14 years or however long I've been playing the game, which is pretty boring. And I think one of your questions will come on to later. But the way I play, I'm not going to win FPL. Like, it's pretty boring. You just play the odds each week, every week, pick the most likely players to score the points. But yeah, in terms of the rankings, I don't look at it too much these days. I couldn't tell you where I am on most of them. In fact, if Hall of Fame, I think Fantasy Foot Scout Hall of Fame, I'm at my highest ever rank right now, which is quite nice. But I couldn't even tell you that. But yeah, it probably does impact the way I play. Trying to keep on with those 10Ks. Got to 10 now. Might as well try and make it 11.
Absolutely, and you've mentioned a very interesting point there, and that was actually my next question. And I'll set the prelude that I had a very, shall we say, passionate exchange with a very respected member of the FPL community, and the conversation basically was that, are you playing for top 10K? This is to me, or are you playing to win FPL? I point blank said to this person, I don't play FPL to win the game. I think you've got more of a likelihood to win the Welsh National Lottery and the Scottish National Lottery than you do to win FPL. And the funny thing is, those lotteries don't even exist. I feel that, like, from my perspective, I'm playing FPL to get in the top 10K and secure top 10K ranks. That's pretty much always been my mindset from the early days as well. Or not even the early days, I'd say when I became more of an addict. But like, it's something that like the person who asked me this question was very shocked. Like, you're not playing FPL to win? No, I'm not. I'm not, I'm not, I don't even care about my mini leagues. I'm in some very like, I do care about mini leagues, but I'm playing for overall rank basically. And the mini leagues will take care of themselves. And it almost seems as if playing for the top 10K, you're right. You've alluded to it. You've kind of hinted at some of the tactics. You have to be boring. You have to be risk averse, but ultimately it all adds up. And you've said it there that these techniques ultimately do help. And obviously there's a variation as well in what you do. But like, I just want to just firstly say, much respect for you to say that the boring way and the risk averse way is one of the elements to that gameplay.
Yeah, I think FPL is great. Obviously, I think it's great because I've played for so long. But there's so many different ways to play the game. There's so many objectives or challenges you can set yourself. You can do mini leagues. You can look at overall rank. There's obviously the cup coming later. You can play head-to-head leagues, which I have done in the past, but I don't do now. And it's as simple or as difficult as you want to make it. FPL. We obviously make it fairly difficult on ourselves. Well, there's not that many decisions you need to make each week. Captain, a transfer in or out. But I don't know. It's yeah, yeah. You're right. I'd love to win FPL, but it's not. It's probably not going to happen. So yeah, I'll take the top 10Ks.
Exactly, but you know what, Dan? You're not going to win FPL, and neither am I. But you're going to win a hell of a lot of mini leagues the way that you play. You're going to win thousands of pounds in prizes as well. That's the reality. And like just to provide some background into the way I used to play, my highest ever rank in FPL was 110th in the world 10 years ago. I didn't know about like all these different techniques. I just played for fun. I used to captain the goalkeeper. I used to play in a very aggressive and cavalier way. But then it dawned upon me that actually I had a very, shall we say, I had a very eye-opening experience on Boxing Day 2014 when something happened in FPL, which I've made a video about it. I won't talk about it now. And it fundamentally was an eye-opener. It dawned upon me that actually there is a very specific way that people play. And I came to the conclusion eventually that there's a limited number of ways to play FPL and be good at it. There are an unlimited number of ways to play FPL and be mediocre or fail in it, basically. And there are people who are purists at heart, who will, are really respected managers that have an amazing season one way in 1 year, and then the year after it'll be really bad because they've they've basically not been pragmatic in their approach.